All these celebrities put their careers on the line to boldly call out Will Smith for smacking Chris Rock at the Oscars. Some even went as far calling the entire Smith family out. This was not usual, considering Will Smith's huge influence and celebrity status in Hollywood. But who are these celebrities who refuse to give Will Smith a standing ovation, and rather join the Common Sense clan by calling out one of their own, and even stating boldly, this is not right. On March 28, 2022, a day after the Oscars, American actor and comedian Jim Carrey appeared on CBS Morning with Gayle King, where he announced he did be suing Will Smith for $200 million, the morning after the Oscars if he had received that slap, but that was not all. The Living Color actor also called out Hollywood elites, who stood up to give Will Smith a standing ovation. He said, quote, "I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is spineless and mass. This is a really clear indication that we're not the cool kids anymore." Many fans after his interview praised actor Jim Carrey for defending what's right over status. Even though Jim Carrey maintained he has a good relationship with Will Smith, he believed his actions the night of the Oscars was not appropriate. Jim Carrey later added, "I don't want the hassle. I would have announced this morning that I was suing Will for $200 million, because that video is going to be there forever. It's going to be ubiquitous. You do not have the right to walk up on stage and smack somebody in the face because they said words." Jim Carrey also churned out he was disappointed that Smith's behavior overshadowed that for so many talented actors and craftspeople. It was not a good moment. It cast a pall over everybody's shining moment. Jim Carrey's words really did echo the anger amongst viewers at home who saw this sickening act, and Hollywood actors even getting up to give the assaulter a standing ovation. By this time, Jim Carrey has made it clear Will Smith's actions were impermissible, and many celebs started following suit. Prior to the 2022 Oscars, the Academy Board had announced that for the first time in Oscars history, 3 ladies will grace the stage together, and all these 3 hosts will MC the Oscars, one of which was comedy legend Wanda Sykes. But Wanda Sykes' whole Oscar moment came crushing when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, taking her shining moment away. Wanda later appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show and said for them to let him stay in that room and enjoy the rest of the show and accept his award. I was like, how gross is this? This is just the wrong message. You assault somebody, you get escorted out of the building, and that's it. For them to let him continue, I thought it was gross. I wanted to be able to run out after he won and say, unfortunately, Will couldn't be here tonight. Actor Denzel Washington was one of the few people who boldly confronted Will Smith on stage after slapping comedian Chris Rock. Will Smith, who won Best Actor for King Richard later that night, whilst giving his acceptance speech, thanked Denzel Washington by saying, "Thank you, Denzel. He said to me a few minutes ago, he said, 'At your highest moment, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you.'" Later on, Denzel Washington addressed the incident at Pastor T.D. Jakes' Leadership Summit, saying that for whatever reason, the devil got hold of Will Smith that night. Tony Rock, Chris Rock's elder brother, couldn't hide his disgust, seeing his only brother get smacked on the world's biggest stage because of a simple joke. In one of Tony's stand-up comedy special, shortly after the Oscars, he emphasized how messed up the whole situation unfolded. He said whilst addressing Will slapping his brother, quote, "If you think you're going to walk up on this stage, this ain't the mother-effing Oscars," Tony Rock said. "And if you walk your ass up here, you ain't nominated for shit, but these mother-effing hands. Oh, we going to pop the rest of the year. Every time you see me do a show, pop." He continued, "You gonna hit my mother-effing brother because your bitch gave you a side-eye." Tony Rock later joked that Chris Rock's mother, Mama Rock, hits harder than both Will and Jada put together. Steve Harvey, whom many regard as the comedy Grand G, also slammed Will Smith for slapping Chris Rock. Harvey reacted to Will's assault. Whilst delivering a speech at the Georgia State University, he said, "I'm a Christian, but I'm really undeveloped. I don't have high-level Christianity. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm like a 2. That's the level of Christianity I can work on. The Family Feud host elaborated. You slap TD Jakes, he'll turn the other cheek. You slap me. If you sit back in your seat. Jada, Will's wife, would have to move out of the way. That's the type of Christian I am. Steve Harvey later called the slap a punk move on Smith's part before adding, I lost a lot of respect for him. Snoop Dogg also reacted to Chris Rock's slap. Snoop Dogg appeared on an April 20 episode of YouTube group, the NELK Boys Full Send podcast, where he notably called the situation tragic. Explaining what he makes of the event, Snoop recounted, I'm actually cool with both of them. He continued after being asked if he was friends with the two celebs. I have no issues. I don't understand it. I'm a spectator, just like you guys. I wasn't even really watching the Oscars. That's not my Sunday night TV special. Snoop Dogg later said he initially thought the whole thing was fake. The way he moved, I was like, that shit ain't real. But when I saw him talking in the crowd, I'm all like, that ain't fake. Andrew Tate also called out Will Smith's assault on Chris Rock on his podcast. While Andrew and Tristan Tate were discussing the Oscars incident, the former UFC fighter stated, listen, they are both comedians from the same kind of genre of movies from the same era in time. They probably knew each other personally. That's why he wasn't scared of Chris Rock. He knows Chris Rock ain't about it. He knew Chris Rock wasn't going to throw back. And on top of all of that, Chris Rock made a bald joke. Listen, Chris Rock had better material. He could have come in much harder. He went in very, very softly. Actor Michael J. White also blasted Will Smith, at a point referring to him as a bully. During an interview on Vlad TV, when asked about the whole Chris Will situation, Jade asserted even though he doesn't watch the Oscars, he saw some late excerpts of it. He asserted he can't stand some bully shit. When the host asked if he, Michael J. White, was the one on stage and Will Smith walked up to slap him, what will have happened, he asserted that will have resulted in a mess, later adding the picture that was painted, hurts him to the soul to see another man been humiliated and slapped like that, reiterating that really bugged him a great deal. Joe Rogan didn't spare Will Smith either. He called out Will Smith for blatantly resorting to violence to satisfy his own convictions, honoring that he laughed at the joke at first only to react after his wife rolled her eyes. Joel elaborated on his podcast, quote, what are you saying to comedy clubs? Are people going to go up to comedians and smack them because they don't like the jokes? Joe further quizzed what are we saying to society when people we look up to, for whatever reason, for good or for bad, we look up to actors, and the Academy Awards is supposed to be them in the most regal outfits, their best behavior, and to drop down to violence for something so innocuous as a G.I. Jane joke is so pathetic. Benjamin Aaron Shapiro, widely known as Ben Shapiro, gave his piece to Will Smith after that infamous Oscar slap. Reacting to the slap in a column on the Grand Herald newspaper, Shapiro divulged, it's easy to brush off the event as yet another disposable silly celebrity moment. It would be easier if Rep. Ayanna Pressley hadn't immediately tweeted and then deleted, thank you Will Smith, shout out to all the husbands who defend their wives living with alopecia in the face of daily ignorance and insults. Or if Rep. Jamal Bowman of New York hadn't tweeted, teachable moment, don't joke about a black woman's hair, or if the entire Academy Awards audience hadn't given Smith a standing ovation later. Ben Shapiro further instituted in his piece that we can hope that Will Smith's slap remains an aberration. A country in which comedians are regularly assaulted for making jokes will soon be a rather humorless place. But unless Americans are willing to reestablish the hard barrier between words and violence, we will become a far more silent and far more violent nation. Conservative commentator Candace Owens didn't spare Will Smith after his assault on comedian Rock. Candace Owens did not only call out Will Smith, she tackled Jada Pinkett Smith as the real ventriloquist behind the attack. Candace owned Jada, as she asserted, when Chris Rock first makes the joke, Will laughs, meaning that he takes the joke as it was intended lightly. But then he looks over and sees that his wife does not find the joke funny, and he immediately goes from an amused attendee to a thug-like husband, defending the honor of his wife's hair. Through all of these jokes and the rampant commentary that is being offered, there is a conversation that is being neglected, a truer assessment of what we observed on that Oscar stage. For the first time, we saw the real Will Smith, not a Fresh Prince, not a survivor of a zombie apocalypse in I Am Legend, not a crime-fighting cop in Bad Boys or a Hancock superhero, but the real Will Smith, an incredibly broken man and the residual product of a directionless society that is filled with them. Candace asserted on her show. Controversial comedian Dave Chappelle hammered Will Smith after smacking his co-comedian Chris Rock on stage, at a point referring to him as ugly as the rest of us. During a stop on Chappelle and Rock's joint comedy tour in Liverpool, England, on Thursday, Chappelle said, "Will did the impression of a perfect person for 30 years, and he ripped his mask off and showed us he was as ugly as the rest of us." Dave Chappelle also warned he doesn't want to see Smith try to reconstruct a facade. "Whatever the consequences are, I hope he doesn't put his mask back on again and lets his real face breathe." Chappelle later added, "I see myself in both men." Eddie Murphy, perhaps notably tagged as the pop of stand-up comedy, also weighed in on Will Smith's smack on Chris Rock at the Oscars. While accepting his Career Achievement Award at the Golden Globes, Murphy surprisingly took to address Will's slap and throw a subtle shade at the actor for slapping Rock. Eddie Murphy said, quote, "I want to let you know there's a definitive blueprint that you can follow to achieve success, prosperity, and peace of mind. It's very simple. There's 3 things. Pay your taxes, mind your business, and keep Will Smith's wife's name out your fing mouth." The statement referred to Will Smith's well-known action of slapping presenter Chris Rock during the previous year's Academy Awards ceremony. This was in response to a joke made by Rock about Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. Comedian and actor Marlon Wayans addressed the slapgate in his Netflix special. Whilst addressing the issue, he said, "People ask me what I will have done if Will walked up on stage to slap me. Well, I will have turned back right on him," Marlon chimed. The headlines the next day will have been, "Will Smith slaps Marlon and Marlon eats him alive." Marlon further tackled Jada Pinkett Smith, arguing Jada's got the Tupac ghost working up in Will Smith. Will was laughing right at the joke, and he turned and got that look from her face, and he said, "Damn it," and going full Tupac mode. Ellen DeGeneres hosted Oscars co-host Wanda Sykes after Will Smith's smack on Chris Rock. While addressing the issue, Ellen noted, "Chris' actions took away major highlights moments like Quest's Love win, Wanda's hosting moment, and the Williams family big win." Ellen also stated she feels traumatized by the event, and further adding Will's actions is not an example to set. You don't let someone do something like that and get away with it and be rewarded. Ellen told her audience whilst hosting the 2022 Oscars co-host Wanda Sykes on her show.